Well, welcome back, everybody. I think the emotions have calmed down after our last segment. Who knows? I don't know if I've stirred it up here with our next guest, who's on the eve of fall camp, so already tension is high. Since tomorrow it begins the grind out in West Fargo for the defending state champs in 2A, now moving up to 3A for the Horace Hawks. Harvey McMahon joins us in studio. You want to get it rolling here? Did I miss up on my ice cream take? You want to let it rip?
I didn't hear all the opinions. I was just kind of eavesdropping on it. And I mean, ice cream sandwich seems like a pretty solid choice.
Yep.
So I think when you were talking about that, I got on Twitter quick and just voted ice cream sandwich. So trying to sway the vote.
Okay, so it's swung that way. I appreciate that. It's great to see you. You know, we were visiting off air on numbers for what you got, and I want to get into that in a second. But I can distinctly remember 5 years ago, right about now, of practice number one of going out at, I believe, at Liberty. Where are you guys at? We're at Liberty Middle School, right?
School field with
and
the equipment.
Less than 20 kids out there of starting this, and now here you are, reigning state champs. Did you get a chance at all the off season just to sit and relive of what the last 4 years have been like?
Yeah, it's been awesome. You know, it's one of those things like you take a little bit of time because obviously with the transition now and all those things, like complacency is probably going to be the number one enemy, but definitely, you know, you take time to reflect on it in the journey, and it's super. You know, we had our parent meeting last night, and it is very special just to be able to reflect on that, be a part of it, and yeah, I'm very fortunate that it turned out the way it did, but. Yeah, you go from 14 kids with PE equipment at a middle school field, and I think a little bit of that was our DNA, though, you know. And then we come in today, and right off air, I look at the number, and we're at 108, and so it's
holy cow.
Yeah, it's been fun, and it's been a privilege to watch the whole thing grow.
Is that even more than you thought? By 5 years in, we be this big.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Dom. I'm a little nervous about our equipment right now. So, you know, we'll do all this stuff the first couple days, and hopefully have enough equipment. So, but yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have.
Tell me the championship game at Dakota Bowl last year. When did you get a sense like, holy cow, we did it? We're gonna do it. When did that click in for you?
Well, with that fumble, it wasn't until almost the end, but. Really, I think it was, that last snap when Taylor took the knee and just kind of soaking all that in. And it took a while to wrap your head around, but it was just a super rewarding moment for so many people involved. And, myself included, I got to take time to reflect on it. It took a little while, but a very rewarding moment.
I know we had you on in November, right at the Monday after the championship win. When in the locker room, how long did you stay there? Just soak it in, have the trophy. Like, how late of a night was it at the Dome that night?
Yeah, well, it was just a late night in general. In the locker room, nobody wanted to leave.
Yeah.
We were all hugging and taking pictures. The kids like doing that, and then we had the room upstairs and got to celebrate the parents and all the families, and then we got to get that chauffeur back to Horace, and so it was just an overall a really fun night and a good thing for the community too, just to. See some reward with all the effort people are putting in.
I think you had a total of maybe 2 days to celebrate because then you found out that you're moving up to 3A football, which I don't think came as a real shock to you, but maybe to some parents or supporters of the program. How did you handle that, saying, hey, bask in the glory of this, but, okay, we're moving up to the big boy division starting this coming fall?
Yeah, to be honest, it's nothing that we haven't really had to face before. Our first varsity season, the district had to put a track down, and so we lost all of our home games.
Yeah.
Like that, again, it's kind of a little bit of our DNA, is just being able to roll with the punches. And certainly, do I wish that that wasn't the capturing news? Yeah, I wish our boys would have got a little bit more recognition. I think that would have been appropriate. But at the end of the day, I mean, the people in the locker room, got the reward they needed, and that's what's important to me. So, it is what it is, and. We're going to continue to stick together.
You mentioned support parents-wise. Describe, I guess, the conversations you had with parents on why this is happening, or what's the more common questions you've had over the offseason on, wait a minute, we just got to 2A and now we're being forced up to 3A?
Yeah, I mean, and being totally transparent, right away it was split. I had parents reach out to me and say they're really excited, especially with the travel deal.
Yeah,
Not having
no
to
doubt.
travel as much.
Yep.
I had some parents that were really concerned, and they felt it wasn't fair, and it was one of those, like, I think that's a moment, like, myself and my staff, we got to look at each other and understand, like, it's time to step up, and we're moving up. It's not a secret anymore. It's where we want to be. So, it's time to just kind of pony up and get after it. And we can't feel sorry for ourselves at all.
I was going to say, how many times you went to Minot? I know for the playoffs. What other road trips did you have last year?
Well, we had 2 to Grand Forks,
Yep.
which is kind of whatever. But then we went to Dickinson. We went to
yep.
Bismarck. We went to Minot. The year before, gosh, I'm trying to remember that.
Did you go to Williston that year or no?
We've never been to Williston.
Okay.
We went to Watford City.
Watford, that was it. Okay.
That was a bear of a travel. But, yeah, I mean, the travel is tough.
Is
but
what
when
it
you
is.
got 12 teams in that AA division, that's what you get.
So I think to me there's palpable buzz for this year knowing, okay, now you're finally going to play Cheyenne and you're going to play West Fargo in football. You've played in every other sport except football. How big is this for the boys and for yourself and your staff? Like, okay, we're going to find out how good we are against the other West Fargo teams.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's, I know those guys have been looking forward to it. The other teams, we've been looking forward to it. So I think it's, the senior class especially, and really 9 through 12, all the boys are very excited, and they got a lot of friends, in the metro here. And so now the ability for them to play against their friends and, like we got kids that are on the same shared Legion baseball team. And so they get to have those fun conversations. And I know a lot of these coaches in the metro, and, I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. So it's fun for me, personally, to be able to go out there and compete against them as well.
Did you do some finagling with the schedule? You got both teams at home? How'd that work?
The schedule is great. I'm real happy we got Cheyenne and West Fargo home. The big problem is our parking lot issue, because I don't think we're gonna have enough parking for that game. So
I say you better go there now and get your
Right.
spot reserved for those nights.
Right. But yeah, I mean, our schedule is also a bear. I mean, I think we got 3 or 4 of the teams in the state championship.
Yeah, we showed it up on the screen here now. So obviously you play Kindred, who's moving up to 2A, who won the Class A championship a season ago. Obviously you play Cheyenne, who's the reigning 3A champs. You got a game, Legacy's solid, by the way. I'm not sure how to determine who's who, since you both have the same colors.
I don't see this schedule is brought to me by Mr. Ladeau, and he, I'm looking through it and I'm like, he's like, well, you got a AA team, and I'm like, who is it? He goes, Kindred. I'm like, perfect. There's 2 kids with standing offers to Michigan. That'll be a fun game. So really excited the game plan for that.
There's a game at your place, though. Again, there's another one.
Oh, that's going to
right down the road. That's going to be packed that night there. That's going to be fantastic. And then you end with Davies and Shanley, and those are another 2 that I know you're really looking forward to get a chance to play those 2 teams.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Wayne and Troy, and you just look at that roster, and there's great coaches, and they're all great programs, top to bottom. And, a little bit of that is my message to the boys is, that Dakota Bowl game had so much intensity. And, previously I'd coached 3A football, and really the difference to me, and I tell the guys is, the difference between 2A to 3A is you look at that roster or that schedule, and every single week's going to be a Dakota Bowl type game, right? So you got to be able to bring it every week.
Especially since you guys won, there's a bigger target there that everybody's coming for you now. Okay, hey, they won. Let's see how good they are. I imagine by coming up to 3A, you're going to face that every week, I would imagine, right?
Absolutely. And that's a challenge our kids, our coaching staff, I think the whole community's embraced. And, we understand the challenge that's ahead. And the biggest thing is, we're coming after it, and we're excited for it. We're not going to shy away from the opportunities.
Last thing before we go to break, you got a couple more minutes to hang out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
I know you were saying in jest about equipment and parking lot, but is this explosion of interest surpassing what you thought at this time? That, hey, maybe year 7, year 8, we'd be there. Maybe not at year 5.
Yeah, and to be honest, yes, it is. One of the things when I found out when we were going 3A was, well, how do you combat a school like us that's 900 against these schools that have 1,400 to 1,500? And so a lot of that has to be creating depth within ourselves. Has to be a lot of getting in the hallways and getting after kids and getting them excited about playing football. And so, having 100 kids, well, that's 1 out of 4 boys in the school, and so that's something we take a lot of pride in.
Pretty good, man.
Yeah. But that's also, as a coach, we felt like that's what we have to do, to set ourselves up for a good year.
Let's take a quick break. Much more with Horace head coach Harvey McMahon. We'll chat about his team and what's coming up for North Dakota high school football in 2025. Back on Hot Mic, we wrap up hour 1 right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. You're hitting leadoff here. We got Zier coming up after you. So you got bring it here.
I'm happy I'm first and not after him. So I'm happy about that.
Have you ever thought of doing midnight practice like he does?
So a lot of my boys saw that.
Yeah.
They must see him on Twitter and stuff.
He's a very popular guy on social media.
And they were like, let's do that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I feel like I'd get like a bad email from him or something, you know? So we're not.
No, I think he wants other people to do it.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
It's a
fantastic.
tremendous idea.
Yes.
So.
It's a good way to get it started. Fargo North did it. I want to say, gosh, it was over a decade ago. It was a cool deal.
Okay.
I'd like to see more out and do it. Email comes in. Dom, can Coach McMahon explain, good luck, on why Horace is moving up to 3A? Can you do that in under 10 minutes of why you guys are moving up to the top division?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So from the phone calls and the conversations I've had with the people associated with that decision, ultimately they just felt we could compete at the 3A level out of all the teams that were in the 2A pool before. That's what was told to me.
Yeah.
And that's really what I hate to say, like, that's just what it is. But when I ask my questions, because, you know, I'm big into, like, you know, what are the processes behind these decisions? Because I think they're important. You know what I mean? You don't want to end up in a promotion relegation system. Otherwise, Barnesville's going to be playing Moorhead. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so ultimately, I think what was told to me was just they felt we could compete the best out of the existing teams in 2A.
I agree with that, and I have spent way too much airtime railing on the class system in high school football in the state. It's still not. I still will never subscribe to a theory where the Grand Forks schools aren't in the biggest class in North Dakota. If you're in West Fargo, Bismarck, Minot, Grand Forks, you have to play in the top division. That's it. There's no wiggle room in that in my mind. Just isn't.
I mean, I don't get paid to make those decisions.
Yep, I know.
I've always said
that's my opinion. You don't have to say anything to it. That's just my 2 cents.
And there's a lot of people's opinions on it. You know, what I'll say is, do I agree with the process? Not necessarily, but I think people know their programs best, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of the coaches I was able to compete against in the 2A level.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to trust those coaches because I know them. They're great people. They know their programs better than I know those programs. So ultimately, I think I'm just going to let the professionals do what they do best.
Give us a sense of this year's team. What you actually had guys graduate. Now, tell me about what the 2025 Horace Hawks will look like.
Yeah, I mean, this senior class especially, I've known them since they were 6th or 7th grade now, and this is a tight group. They love competing and playing football together. So I think this is a group that's ready to take on these challenges ahead. They're chomping at the bit to get after it. So, you know, I'm expecting, you know, an intense, fast-flying, physical football team from these guys.
Recruiting question: how close are we to having a Division I Horace Hawks soon in football? We've got other ones in other sports. How close do you think having that in the football ranks?
That's up to the boys, right? you gotta work your tail off and go to these camps and show off.
But you got guys getting recruited now. I mean, you got a bunch of them, frankly, right?
Yep. Yeah. There's boys getting recruited, and you know, I help out. I have good relationships with coaches specifically in the area, and there's definitely interest in my boys. But ultimately, it's those guys that need to go find those relationships with the college coaches. But hopefully soon, that would be a good thing for me.
Having a returning quarterback, how big a deal is that?
I think it's a big deal. You know, this year we don't have one,
right?
With Taylor leaving, but you know, we like what we have in our quarterback room currently. You know, I think we got a couple of names in there that, you know, had a good year last year on the JV level. Does it help to have varsity experience? Absolutely. So that is something we're going to lack, especially early on. However, you know, knowing the kids that we got and just the competitors they are, you know, we're confident with the group we got.
How early in camp are you identifying guys like they can help us in terms of, okay, maybe this guy had a better summer than we got to see, and this is going to be a bonus for us because we weren't counting on him maybe for the fall?
Truth be told, I do it year round, right? So I also am doing head track coach. I do it during track too, right? So like I'm doing it year round. Obviously, it gets into summer, and you know, you get to see, okay, I think maybe this guy might be able to fit in well with this situation. You know, I actually had a conversation with Coach Polisek, and I had a boy at one position. He goes, try him at this position. I think we might want to take a look at him. And so it's those types of things you do in the summer. And then when you get to the fall, what's really cool is you got these boys, you know, our kids are pulled in every which way. And, you know, I might not see them for a while because they're doing baseball or basketball or Lord forbid they enjoy, being a kid and going on a family vacation, and they'll show up on fall camp and you're like, holy smokes, redo the depth chart. You know what I mean? So like, that's the fun part. That's a really, enjoyable part of the gig.
This is another bone to pick I have, and this is not with you, but the high school association of your starting practice tomorrow. Some teams will be playing games 2 weeks from now. Mm-hmm. Is that too short a run up? I know you guys aren't doing that. You still have a full 3 weeks before you play. But to me, 15 days seems crazy to start practice and then okay, we're going to play a football game after that.
Yeah, see, I'm indifferent on that. I think I agree with you to an extent, but on the opposite end, if it's too long.
Yeah.
Those kids start, you got to hit the other colors at some point. So I'm kind of 50-50 on that. I agree with you. Sometimes it feels rushed, but sometimes there can be a lull too. And then as a coach, it's hard because you're like really trying to have to, manufacture some energy. So, like for us, we have a quick one because on the 21st, which is, I believe, the first, legal day you can have a game, our JV is going against Minot Bishop Ryan's varsity team. And my understanding, they got an NDSU recruit. So my JV kids are, ready to roll too. They're ready. They're bouncing off the walls already. So
describe what a successful season looks like in 2025 for Horace.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We had that parent meeting last night.
Yeah.
This is kind of what everyone's like, man, are you guys going to go back to back? Are you guys going to go 0-9? And I've always said, even back when we had 14 kids at Liberty Middle School field, like I just don't use that as a litmus test for myself. I know who the kids we have. And so I think relationships are a big thing. So, I'm expecting us to have adversity. And that doesn't mean losing. That doesn't mean it could be an injury. It could be, anything that happens in a football season. Can this team stick together? You know what I mean? When you go to 3A, everything's so magnified and so intense. Like I said, it's like the Dakota Bowl for 9 weeks. So the maturity of this team being able to stick together, if they can do that, sky's the limit for this crew.
I'm interested, do you talk with some of your colleagues? I remember Davies doing it, and this is 15 years ago when Davies was brand new school and was thrown right into the deep end. You're playing, it wasn't like you guys, you had a little ramp up to get to 3A. They were right in there. Do you seek out any advice on this? I know everyone's, especially football coaches, they're so close to the vest on not giving up anything.
Right.
Have you done that over the last few months?
That's, I'll just go back to what I said a little bit ago, all the coaches in North Dakota since I've started, that whole brotherhood is tremendous. I just think of even Troy Mattern really had no business in helping me, and he's just the first guy to stick his neck out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why all those coaches at the 2A from Vern all the way to Todd at Devil's Lake and Gilbertson at Wapton, I have so much respect for those guys, and they're so good for the game of football. All those guys have helped me at some point or another.
Last thing before we let you go, another email comes in. When do you start selling parking for the Kindred game? We were just talking about that because that one, another one, you're going to have a ton of people at that one too.
We had a JV game 3 years ago against Gwinner. We went down to talk. Eric and I connected, and we did a JV.
Love EO, one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah, he's the man. Yep. And I just remember that was such a cool atmosphere. They lined up the trucks around the football field and would turn on the headlights and stuff. I imagine that's what our Kindred game is going to be. So let's just go, let me feel some Class B before we go into that EDC schedule. Let's line it up around the field. Everyone tailgate it.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. It's so great to see you. Congratulations on a great year. Good luck. I know a lot of people are going to be watching to see how your team does this fall. And thanks so much for coming by this morning, all right?
Yeah,
Harvey McMahon joining us here in studio, head coach of the Horace Hawks. They open up the season August the 29th. And you saw on their schedule, we'll have a couple of their games here on Extra coming up in October. We'll break. We come back. We'll start hour 2 with the Midnight Man. Mike Zero will join us from Beach as they get ready for opening night coming up later tonight. Back after this.